The Bad Batch released 2 episodes today, Identity Crisis and Point of No Return. After having 2 pretty chill episodes in a row, it's like the series is very clearly telling the audience that the time for relaxing is over, because both of this week's stories had me tense the entire time. Identity Crisis came first and was a change of pace for the Bad Batch because they weren't in it, kinda like the Season 1 episode surrounding Hera and her family. The story begins following a little family with a Force-sensitive baby. It's a species that was introduced in Solo, a Star Wars story, that I already thought was cute, and then they were like, what if we made a baby version? And what if that baby had its own smaller, even cuter baby? He's too cute, and the second we see him using the Force, you just know he's gonna be in trouble. And of course, he's got a terrible neighbor that calls in a tip for a Class 1 bounty hunter. Later on, Cad Bane shows up to kidnap the child and throw credit to the jerk. It seems like a Star Wars animation tradition at this point. The Clone Wars, Rebels, and now the Bad Batch all have to have at least one episode putting cute little Force-sensitive babies in danger. Over on Tantus, we see Hemlock for the first time in 5 episodes. He's in a lab, and I would guess he's creating a new CX clone trooper. He seems to be in the floor above the elevator we saw back in episode 3, which was guarded by a CX clone. But it's difficult to see everything on his datapad, and we definitely see some interesting images on it later, so I'll come back to that. He meets with Emery, and their conversation is great. Emery asks to be put in Nala Se's place as Chief Science Officer, claiming she has been trustworthy at Hemlock's side for years. He agrees, takes her into the vault, and tells her all about Project Necromancer. Inside, we see that there is more than just that weird room from episode 3 that had a Sith interior decorator. There's also a holding cell for several Force-sensitive kids. Hemlock explains they have to rely on children because there are few Force-sensitive adults left. Obviously, that's because of Order 66, and I like how this is another example of the Empire's short-sightedness. They killed most of the Jedi, then they killed most of the Kaminoans. They destroyed these supposed threats to Palpatine's power, but now they need those exact people to ensure the longevity of the Emperor's reign. Hemlock also finally gives us a direct answer about why Omega is so important to Project Necromancer. He says, as you know, M-Count cannot be directly replicated from the source. However, Nala Se knew of another way, which is why she aided in Omega's escape. The young clone's blood is the only binder that's been proven to be compatible with their DNA to recreate their M-Count levels, and why Omega must be found. So I think my guess from the season premiere was correct. There's something about Omega's blood that can replicate midichlorian counts in cloning. If Hemlock were to clone Palpatine or another Jedi, their midichlorians would not transfer to the copy, but if they added in Omega's blood, then they could keep the same midichlorian level. I don't think this removes the possibility that Omega could also have her own potential in the Force, but that's a more spiritual question that the Empire doesn't care about. All that matters to them is the science. The way Hemlock talks about the kids is so gross, even if it's completely expected. He says children are easier to capture and subjugate because they don't know what's going on. We see that there is a level of trust from the kids because they simply don't know any better. One of them immediately takes a liking to Emery, complimenting her and asking when she'll get to go home. It's heartbreaking, and Emery lies, but I think we're gonna see that connection grow. We don't know her full story yet, but I think she likely had a similar upbringing. She's probably been manipulated by Hemlock since she was created, made to trust him because she didn't know better. She's probably only 10 or 12 years old or so, trained to follow orders without question just like the other clones. But we've seen enough hesitation on her part in previous episodes that show us she's got some humanity inside of her. One of the kids attempts to escape, and Scorch stuns him. Emery chastises him for using extreme measures on a child, but the commando pointedly calls the child a specimen. Dr. Carr definitely hasn't forgotten what her test subjects truly are. Frightened kids. She just needs to grow a backbone and do something about it. There are some great little details in the animation as Emery lies to Eva again, saying her friend isn't in trouble, but she's unable to look the little girl in the eyes as she says it. Next, she goes to visit Nala Se, and we get more of Emery's backstory. She asks the Kaminoan if her plan for the children was to discard them too. I think that suggests that Emery was once seen as a scientific specimen that was nearly thrown away. Back in the Clone Wars, we saw the Kaminoans suggesting they discard an entire batch of clones that weren't living up to their standards in combat. For now, I'm guessing Emery was accidentally created as a woman. She was probably viewed as an aberration to be thrown out, but instead, Hemlock must have saved her, taking her as an easily controlled assistant. That's why she seems to have such loyalty to him. Nalase says she did everything she could to save Omega, but now the other children will look to Emery. I speculated earlier in the season that she might have Stockholm Syndrome, and that's sounding more and more likely. The way she tries to convince Omega and Crosshair that they shouldn't escape makes me think she may have tried and failed to escape Hemlock when she was younger, so now she's given up hope and just tries to be a good scientist. But seeing all these kids might remind her of what it was like when she was young and scared. Those feelings are exacerbated when she goes to pick up that adorable baby Cad Bane kidnapped, and she is not hiding her discomfort well. Even Bane tells her she's got a bad poker face. When she gets back, Eva calls Emery out for lying about her friend, Jax, who got solitary confinement for his escape attempt. Emery continues to break, calling Eva by her name and then looking at an image of Omega, which, first of all, she might as well be looking at a picture of herself when she were younger, but second, she pulls out Omega's homemade stuffed doll. She kept a personal item, which she knows is against the rules, and she gives it to Eva. The stage is set for Emery to do the right thing and help these kids when the time is right. I love how connected this episode felt to the season premiere. The tempo, tone, and music all felt similar to watching the monotony of Omega's days on Tantus, and of course, the return of Omega's doll. Watching episodes 1, 3, and 10 would probably feel like its own self-contained story. Jumping back in the episode a bit, Governor Tarkin gives Hemlock a ring to ask him about all the funds being diverted to Mount Tantus. It would seem that Tarkin has no idea what Project Necromancer is, and he's fishing for information. I think it's funny that he still threatens Hemlock, saying the operation had better yield proper results, but he doesn't even know what proper results would look like. This all feels very Tarkin, and I like it. He wants to be in the know, and he wants to control things, and if he can, he'll swoop in and take credit when all is said and done. After the threat, Hemlock calls up the CX trooper from episodes 6 and 7, who is still hard at work tracking Omega. He says he got more information out of the Trandoshan, who I assume is Sid. He now has the name of a pirate, which the next episode confirms is Fee, so CX2 is making significant progress. Hemlock says the other operatives aren't ready to go into the field, and right before the call, we saw a couple images on his datapad. One seems like a standard CX trooper, but the eyes looked a little closer to the DT series or Dark Trooper droids. The second screen looks like a new version of the helmet. Back when we first saw a CX Trooper in Season 2, I guessed they might be like the canon version of the Legends Phase Zero Dark Trooper, which were clones forced to become cyborgs as experiments until the Dark Trooper droids were fully developed. These screens are making me think about that theory all over again. I think Hemlock was working on updated CX Troopers at the start of this episode, and we'll probably see more of them before the season is over. That brings us to the end of Identity Crisis, so now we'll move on to episode 11, Point of No Return. There, we immediately follow up with CX2, who finds Fee and is able to basically steal her GPS data while she refuels her ship. So the Empire now has Pabu's location, which put a huge sense of dread over the rest of the episode. Back in episode 9, I said I wished we got some scenes with the clone cadets on Pabu, or maybe Omega and Liana, just a quick check-in. But it seems like they were just waiting to give us those scenes this week when it would hurt more, knowing that the Empire is on its way, showing the people who have found refuge on Pabu, seeing all the citizens living their lives happily and peacefully, accepting even Batcher as one of their own. The stakes felt huge for me. After Ventress's warning, it seems like Clone Force 99 is going to leave to keep Pabu safe from harm, and Omega leaves behind some of their personal treasures in the Archeum, where every refugee on the planet is able to preserve a bit of their culture. Omega places Tech's goggles and her doll Lula inside, which is absolutely heartbreaking, but I also think it's a sign that Omega is all grown up. I talked about this last week, but parenthood has always been a central theme to this series. We watched Hunter, Tech, Wrecker, Echo, and now even Crosshair raise and teach Omega. When they met her, she was young and sheltered. She had never left Camino. She needed comfort. When she was taken to Mount Tantus, I figured the whole season might be about rescuing her, but she surprised her brothers and the audience when she escaped in the first 3 episodes. She is not that little girl anymore. She has learned all she can from her brothers. She can handle herself now. Placing the goggles and Lula in the Archeum is sweet, but it definitely has meaning too. I do hope she asked Wrecker for permission to put Lula in there. Meanwhile, CX-2 lands his ship inside one of Pabu's caves. I don't know if that's the same cave Asajj used, but it doesn't matter. Somebody please put motion sensors or something down there. People can't just fly in and out of your secret peaceful refugee city willy-nilly like this. And right before the batch are about to leave, the Marauder is destroyed and the Empire is called in. I love that Wrecker grabs Gonki, saving the droid before diving into the water. Unfortunately, that means Clone Force 99's strongest member is out of commission for the rest of the episode. The shots of the Empire arriving and invading the city are chilling, and I was genuinely terrified they might shoot Shep and start burning homes. We never get that far, but the threat always felt real. And when they opened fire on Batcher? No thank you. That's a level of anxiety I do not need. With the Marauder destroyed, Hunter attempts to steal an LAAT, but CX-2 executes the pilot to prevent his success. Running out of options, Omega tells Crosshair she will give herself up to the Empire to end the attack, but suggests a few ways she can be tracked back to Tantus. This is yet another moment showing us how much she has grown up. Back in Season 1, she was captured by Cad Bane and taken to an old Kaminoan facility. After being rescued, she was so scared of ever being taken back to someplace so frightening. One of her biggest fears was winding up an experiment in a tube, and Hunter promises that will never happen. Now she is choosing to go back to Tantus, to become an experiment. She is confronting her fear head-on to save the people of Pabu. And when she's taken away, she breathes and centers herself just like Gungi taught her. We don't know if Omega is Force-sensitive or not, but I do not care, because her actions scream Jedi to me. Crosshair races to shoot a tracker onto CX-2's ship, and the absolute roller coaster that sent me on. I was certain that when it truly mattered, Crosshair would be able to center himself, steady his hand, and make an insane shot like his old days. Those words had just left my mouth watching the episode, and then he just misses. I was so deflated. The way this episode set the batch up to fail was gut-wrenching. To be clear, I thought it was great. I want to feel the impact of those moments. It was a huge success. We're so used to seeing the batch come up with these crazy plans and then pull them off, but Hunter and Crosshair both fail. Omega is gone, and Clone Force 99 has no way to find or follow her. With the Marauder destroyed, I assume they'll have to start working more closely with Echo and Rex to find Tantus. I think when I was reviewing Season 2, I kept saying something like, all roads are leading to Tantus, and Omega eventually wound up there, but this time I think it's real. The Bad Batch are gonna have to raid that base, save their sister, save their Reg brothers, and probably save a bunch of kids as well. This episode showed Clone Force 99 failing, but I think we're setting them up for a massive win at the end of the series. A victory that means more than they will probably ever know. I've said it before, but I love that they're probably gonna go to Tantus with the intent of saving what they love. They don't know what's really going on there. They don't know about Project Necromancer. All they want to do is rescue those that can't rescue themselves. And by doing that, they're going to cripple the Emperor's plans for immortality to the point where they're still working on Project Necromancer decades later. Palpatine won't be able to resurrect himself the way he wants, which basically means the clones are partially responsible for saving the entire galaxy. They were manipulated into helping Darth Sidious rise to power, but they're also going to be the ones to take him down. That is awesome. I don't know that's all going to happen for sure, that's just the path I see this show taking. Even if I'm wrong, I trust these writers to bring us a satisfying ending. We've got 4 episodes left, and it doesn't seem like they'll be letting off the accelerator now. I cannot wait to see what happens next. But for now, let me know what you thought of Identity Crisis and Point of No Return in the comments. If you haven't already, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, follow us on our socials, and consider checking out our Patreon page. As always, thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.